My name is Ethan. I am 28 years old, but this story begins when I was just a little boy. I grew up in a small town in Ohio, in a house that always felt a little too quiet. My mother, Sarah, was a gentle woman with kind eyes and a soft voice. My father, Mark, was a tall man with strong hands and a laugh that filled the room. At least, that's how I remember him from the few memories I have. When I was 5, my father left home. I still remember the morning he packed his old brown suitcase. He kissed my forehead and told me to be a good boy. He hugged my mother for a long time at the door. I watched from the stairs, holding my favorite toy car, not understanding why my mother's eyes were full of tears. My father said he had to go for work, that he would come back soon. I believed him. I waited for him every day. The first few weeks after he left, my mother tried to keep everything normal. She made pancakes for breakfast, just like my father used to do on Sundays. She smiled and told me stories at bedtime, but I could see the sadness in her eyes. Every evening, she would sit by the window, looking out at the road, hoping to see my father's car. Sometimes, she would whisper to herself, "He promised he would come back." I started to ask questions. "When will Dad come home?" I would ask her. She would always answer, "Soon, Ethan. He loves us. He will come back." I believed her because I wanted to. I drew pictures for my father and left them on the table, hoping he would see them when he returned. I even kept my room clean, just the way he liked it. As months passed, the house grew quieter. My mother stopped smiling as much. She worked long hours at the local bakery, coming home tired every night. I learned to make my own breakfast, to get ready for school by myself. I missed my father's laugh, his stories, the way he would lift me up and spin me around the living room. I missed the feeling of being a family. One day, I found my mother crying in the kitchen. She tried to hide her tears, but I saw them. I hugged her and asked, "Did I do something wrong? Is that why Dad isn't coming back?" She shook her head and held me close. "No, Ethan, you did nothing wrong. Sometimes grown-ups make choices that hurt the people they love, but it's not your fault." I didn't understand then, but her words stayed with me. I started to notice how other kids at school talked about their fathers. They shared stories about fishing trips, baseball games, and family vacations. I listened quietly, wishing I had stories like theirs. I wondered if my father ever thought about me, if he missed me the way I missed him. As the years passed, my mother and I became closer. We learned to depend on each other. She taught me how to ride a bike, how to tie my shoes, how to be kind to others. She worked hard to give me a good life, even when money was tight. Sometimes she would come home with a small treat, a chocolate bar, a new book, or a warm scarf for winter. She always said, "We may not have much, but we have each other." I grew up watching my mother struggle, but she never gave up. She was strong, even when she was tired. She never spoke badly about my father. When I asked about him, she would just say, "He had his reasons, Ethan. Maybe one day you'll understand." I tried to understand, but it was hard. I missed him every day. When I was 10, I started writing letters to my father. I didn't know where he was, but I wrote anyway. I told him about my life, my school, my friends. I told him about my mother and how hard she worked. I told him I missed him. I left the letters on my windowsill, hoping the wind would carry them to him. Of course, they never did. Middle school was a difficult time for me. I was quiet and shy. I didn't have many friends. I felt different from the other kids, like there was a piece of me missing. Sometimes, I would get angry for no reason. I would slam doors, yell at my mother, or refuse to talk. She never got angry back. She would just sit with me, waiting for me to calm down. Then she would hug me and say, "It's okay to feel sad, Ethan. It's okay to miss him." One day, a new boy named Lucas joined my class. He was friendly and outgoing, and for some reason, he wanted to be my friend. We started spending time together after school. We played basketball, rode our bikes, and talked about everything. For the first time in a long time, I felt happy. I told Lucas about my father, about how he left and never came back. Lucas listened quietly, then said, "My dad left too, but my mom says we can still have a good life." Lucas and I became best friends. We helped each other through the hard days. We laughed together, shared secrets, and dreamed about the future. My mother was happy to see me smile again. She invited Lucas over for dinner, and soon he became like a part of our family. But even with friends and a loving mother, there were nights when I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering where my father was. Did he ever think about me? Did he ever regret leaving? I wished I could ask him, but I didn't know how. As I grew older, I learned to hide my pain. I focused on school, on sports, on helping my mother. I worked part-time jobs to help pay the bills. My mother always said, "You're growing up to be a good man, Ethan. Your father would be proud." I wanted to believe her, but sometimes I wondered if he even remembered me. High school was a turning point in my life. I started to realize that I could not keep waiting for my father forever. My mother and I had built a life together, just the two of us. She was always there for me, cheering me on at my basketball games, helping me with my homework, and listening to my worries. She worked extra hours at the bakery so I could join the school band and go on field trips. I knew she was tired, but she never complained. One day, during my junior year, I was called to the principal's office. My heart raced as I walked down the hallway. I wondered if I had done something wrong. When I entered the office, I saw my mother sitting there, her face pale and worried. The principal explained that my grades had dropped and that I seemed distracted in class. My mother looked at me with concern. On the way home, she asked, "Ethan, is everything okay?" I wanted to tell her about the emptiness I felt, about how much I missed my father, but I didn't want to make her sad. So I just nodded and said, "I'm fine, Mom." That night, I sat in my room, staring at the old family photo on my desk. It was the only picture I had of all three of us together. My father's arm was around my mother, and I was sitting on his lap, smiling. I wondered if he still had a picture of me, if he ever looked at it and thought about coming home. I picked up a pen and started writing another letter. This time I wrote, "Dear Dad, I don't know where you are, but I hope you're okay. I wish you could see me now. I'm trying to be a good son. I miss you every day." I never sent the letter, but writing it made me feel a little better. I realized that I could not change the past, but I could choose how I lived my life. I decided to work harder in school, to make my mother proud. I joined the debate team, started volunteering at the local library, and spent more time with Lucas and my other friends. Slowly, my grades improved, and I started to feel more confident. My mother noticed the change in me. She smiled more often, and our home felt warmer. We started new traditions, movie nights on Fridays, homemade pizza on Saturdays, and long walks in the park on Sundays. We laughed together, shared stories, and talked about our dreams for the future. My mother always said, "We may not have everything, but we have each other." That's enough. As graduation approached, I thought about my father more often. I wondered if he would come to see me walk across the stage. On the day of the ceremony, I scanned the crowd, hoping to see his face. But he wasn't there. My mother cheered the loudest, her eyes shining with pride and tears. After the ceremony, she hugged me tightly and whispered, "Your father would be so proud of you, Ethan." I smiled and hugged her back, trying not to let the sadness show. After high school, I decided to go to college in a nearby city. My mother helped me pack my things and move into my dorm room. She hugged me goodbye and said, "Remember, I'm always here for you." I promised to call her every week. College was a new world for me. New friends, new challenges, new opportunities. I studied hard, joined clubs, and even started dating a girl named Lily. She was kind and understanding, and she listened when I talked about my father. One evening, Lily and I were sitting in a coffee shop, talking about our families. I told her about my father, about how he left and never came back. She held my hand and said, "You're strong, Ethan. You've built a good life, even without him." Her words comforted me, but the pain never fully went away. During my second year of college, I received a letter in the mail. The handwriting was unfamiliar, but my heart skipped a beat when I saw the return address. It was from my father. My hands shook as I opened the envelope. The letter was short. He wrote, "Dear Ethan, I know I have been gone for a long time. I am sorry for the pain I caused you and your mother. I hope you can forgive me. I think about you every day. Love, Dad." I read the letter over and over, trying to make sense of it. Part of me was angry that he thought a few words could fix everything. Another part of me was relieved to know he was alive, that he still thought about me. I showed the letter to my mother. She read it quietly, then handed it back to me. "It's your choice, Ethan," she said. "You can write back if you want, or you can let it go." I thought about it for days. I wanted answers. I wanted to know why he left, why he never came back. I wanted to tell him about my life, about my mother, about all the things he missed. But I also wanted to protect myself from more pain. In the end, I wrote a letter back. I told him about my life, about my mother's strength, about my dreams for the future. I told him I missed him, but I didn't know if I could forgive him yet. Weeks passed, but I never received another letter. I tried not to think about it, but sometimes, late at night, I wondered if he ever read my words. I wondered if he ever felt the same emptiness I did. College went by quickly. I graduated with honors, and my mother was there, cheering for me as always. I found a job in the city and started building a life of my own. Lily and I moved in together, and we talked about starting a family someday. My mother visited often, bringing homemade cookies and stories from home. One day, I received a phone call from a hospital in another state. The nurse told me that my father was very sick and had asked to see me. My heart pounded as I listened. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to go, to see him one last time. Another part of me was afraid of the pain, the questions, the memories. I called my mother and told her about the call. She listened quietly, then said, "It's your decision, Ethan. Whatever you choose, I'll support you." I talked to Lily, to Lucas, to my friends. Everyone had different advice, but in the end, I knew I had to make the choice for myself. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking about my father. I remembered the mornings I waited for him by the window, the birthdays he missed, the questions I never got to ask. I thought about my mother's strength, about all the years she carried both our hopes and our pain. I wondered if seeing my father now would bring me peace, or if it would only open old wounds. The next morning, I packed a small bag and bought a bus ticket to the hospital. The journey felt long and heavy. I watched the world pass by outside the window, my mind full of memories and worries. When I arrived, the hospital smelled of antiseptic and quiet sadness. A nurse led me down a hallway to a small room. My father was lying in a bed, looking older and thinner than I remembered. His hair was gray, his face lined with years of absence. He looked up as I entered, his eyes searching my face. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he whispered, "Ethan?" I nodded, my throat tight. He tried to smile, but it was weak. "You grew up," he said softly. I sat down beside his bed, unsure of what to say. There were so many things I wanted to ask, so many things I wanted to say, but the words wouldn't come. He reached for my hand, his grip gentle but trembling. "I'm sorry, Ethan," he said. "I know I hurt you and your mother. I made mistakes I can never fix. I thought I was doing the right thing, but I was wrong. I missed you every day." I looked at him, searching for the father I remembered. I saw regret in his eyes, and something else, love, maybe, or hope. We talked for a long time. He told me about the years he spent away, about the loneliness and regret that followed him. He said he thought about coming back, but he was ashamed and afraid. He asked about my life, about my mother, about the man I had become. I told him about my childhood, about my mother's strength, about Lucas and Lily, about my dreams and fears. I told him I missed him, but I also told him about the pain he left behind. He listened quietly, tears in his eyes. "I wish I could go back and change things," he said. "But I can't. All I can do is say I'm sorry and hope you can forgive me." I didn't know if I could forgive him, not completely. But sitting there, holding his hand, I realized that I didn't want to carry anger anymore. I wanted to let go, to find peace for myself and for him. Before I left, he pressed a small envelope into my hand. "For you," he said. "I wrote you letters over the years. I never sent them, but I want you to have them." I nodded, unable to speak. I hugged him gently, feeling the weight of years between us. "Goodbye, Dad," I whispered. He smiled, and for a moment, I saw the father I remembered. I returned home, my heart heavy but lighter than before. That night, I opened the envelope and read the letters. They were full of apologies, memories, and hopes. He wrote about the day I was born, about the first time I rode a bike, about the dreams he had for me. He wrote about his regrets, about missing my birthdays, about wishing he could be there for me. I cried as I read them, feeling both the pain of loss and the comfort of being remembered. Life moved on. My father passed away a few weeks later. I went to his funeral, standing beside my mother and Lily. There were only a few people there, but I felt a sense of closure. I said goodbye to the man who left, and to the pain I carried for so long. My mother held my hand, and I knew we would be okay. In the months that followed, I focused on building my own family. Lily and I got married in a small ceremony, surrounded by friends and loved ones. My mother smiled through her tears, proud of the man I had become. Lucas was my best man, and we laughed about the old days, about how far we had come. Sometimes, I still thought about my father. I wondered what life would have been like if he had stayed. But I also knew that his absence had shaped me, had made me stronger, more compassionate, more determined to be present for the people I loved. I promised myself that I would never leave my family, that I would always be there for my children, no matter what. Years passed, and Lily and I had 2 children, a boy and a girl. I told them stories about my childhood, about my mother's strength, about the importance of forgiveness and love. I taught them to be kind, to be brave, to never give up on the people they care about. I watched them grow, feeling both joy and gratitude for the life I had built. One evening, as I sat with my son on my lap, he asked, "Dad, did you ever miss your father?" I smiled and nodded. Yes, I did. But I learned that even when someone is gone, the love you have for them stays with you. And sometimes, forgiveness is the greatest gift you can give to them and to yourself. Looking back, I realized that my story was not just about loss, but about hope, healing, and the power of love. My father never came back, but I found a way to move forward. I found family in the people who stayed, in the friends who became brothers, in the woman who stood by my side, and in the children who filled my life with laughter. If you are listening to my story, and you have ever felt alone or abandoned, remember this: you are stronger than you think. You can build a new life, even from broken pieces. You can forgive, even when it's hard, and you can find happiness even after loss. Thank you for listening to my story. If you liked it, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And remember, you are never truly alone. There is always hope, and there is always love.